I'm here this afternoon with Dr. Brent Mays, candidate for Senate District 24, correct?
Yes.
Doctor, to introduce yourself to my audience, what type of medicine or field were you in?
I'm a radiologist.
A radiologist, how many years?
25 years plus.
Plus?
Stopped practicing medicine in 1996, which was a while back.
Oh, okay, all right. Anything in particular that you've been focused on in that interim?
Well, in 1996 and after that, I also had a mail order house selling motorcycle parts for Harley Davidsons. So I
Wow.
had that going on. And then in 2003, I started attending Dallas Theological Seminary and got a master's degree in biblical studies from there in 2008. And we moved to Fredericksburg, Texas in 2008, and that's where I've been since then.
Very interesting. What a journey. Doctor to motorcycles to theology.
Right.
I love it. Very good diversity there. Well, why on earth did you make the decision that you want to run for state office?
I couldn't help it. I'm in Fredericksburg, do some Bible studies in and out of the church, taught a little Sunday school, go to church, go home to my Christian wife and my Christian house and fellowship with my Christian friends. And we've been kind of outside of the darkness, if you will. Fredericksburg doesn't have much darkness in it compared to most of the state and the country.
Uh-huh.
And so I was basically kind of hiding because I know I've read the book and I know how it comes out. It gets worse before it gets better. Then it gets better all of a sudden. And I was one of those that is just, waiting. And I got to the point I couldn't stand it anymore. I've seen our country change. It's not the same country I was raised up in. It's not the same state I was raised up in. We have fallen into evil so fast. In the past 10 years, it's jaw-dropping. And I got to the point with reading the Armor of God and Paul, he says to resist evil. And I finally could not sit in my house anymore. I had to come out, and I realized, particularly with what's going on in the national politics, they said, give us the House, and we gave them the House. They didn't do anything. They said, give us the Senate. We gave them the Senate. They didn't do anything. Right now, they're actually saying, give us the presidency, and then we'll really do something. And if we give them a conservative president, they're going to push back against the president. So I've come to the conclusion that our folks in Washington aren't helping us. They're not going to help us. They don't want to help us. And they're actually making things worse. So if we're going to save Texas, and I'm a third-generation Texas, I love this state. If we're going to save Texas, we're going to have to save Texas on our own. And it's up to us because we're going to get no help. And we need to seal our borders from the north, from their bad ideology from the north, and we need to seal them from the south from invading us and destroying the system that we have. So that's what I came out to take a stand for right versus wrong and help save Texas.
We have a lot of things going on right now that are being kind of pushed back to that next legislative session, 2017. Right. Governor Abbott has said that he wants to do away with sanctuary cities. Where do you stand on that?
Well, we absolutely have to get rid of sanctuary cities at the state level because they are not going to do it at the federal level. It's the same thing with the entire open borders. They are not going to do it. And we need to do something about the borders. And so I say, what is the least we can do at the Texas level? And the least we can do is have E-Verify, public and private, so you can't come across here and get a job. The least we can do is stop in-state tuition for illegals. The least we can do is get rid of sanctuary cities. We do not need the government, the federal government, to stop sanctuary cities. We can do it at the state level. And those are some of the least things we can do, and we have to do it.
You were talking about things that Christians typically define as evil, and one of the things that occurred during the summer after our legislature had adjourned, and that was the ruling by the Supreme Court in regards to gay marriage. Where do you stand on that issue?
Well, that was one of the things, the bogus ruling on same-sex marriage is one of the things that also brought me into this. The Supreme Court is a Supreme Court, not the supreme being. They made their decision. They said, okay, this is our decision, and so immediately everybody says, now it's the rule of law. It's not the rule of law. They don't make law. They make opinions. They've acted extra-constitutionally, and we need to say in Texas, no, it's enough. And we don't even need a special session. They're calling for a special session with Abbott. Abbott has the power with our states' rights to stand up to them and say, enough. We've got a constitution in Texas that says marriage is between one man and one woman. We have a constitution, and we're going to honor our constitution, and enough from the feds. So we can stop that at the state level as well.
Very good. Another issue, of course, that has been brought to light during the summer as well was Planned Parenthood. What are your understanding or stance on that issue?
Well, Planned Parenthood is virtually the same as all the other federal issues. They have been promising us for, I think now, decades at the federal level they were going to defund Planned Parenthood. They never did. They never are. So we have to do what we can in Texas. And thankfully, Texas has essentially defunded Planned Parenthood at the Texas level even before this last thing. But there's just a little bit left, and we stopped that little bit, and we're done with Planned Parenthood's funding. But we need to, I believe, go ahead and make it as difficult as possible for the abortionists to practice their murder in the state of Texas. And so that's something that we can do more of.
What are some of the particular issues? Now, one of the first things you mentioned was about securing our border, both north and south. Love that. What are some of the other issues that you're concerned about?
Well, it's some of those social issues that pretty much brought me into it. But once I got into this race and started, this is a huge district, 17 counties. Once I started traveling the 17 counties and trying to find out about the other issues, that just to focus on the social issues would be basically malpractice. So I've learned a lot about the other issues. The other main local or district-wide issue in Senate District 24 is water. Every county virtually has a problem with water of some sort. The problems are different. The problems in the Highland Lakes are not the same problems as in Bandera. And the problems in Bandera are not the same as here in Kerrville or in Abilene. Yeah. But there are statewide problems regarding water. And a lot of the problems, but not all of it, has to do with property rights. Mm-hmm. And so we need to make sure that we honor the property rights of those who own the groundwater, and that the surface water, which is owned by the state, is used not only to feed like rice farmers down south of the Highland Lakes, but is also used for the people in Senate District 24. The thing about Senate District 24 is Senate District 24 is perhaps the most conservative district in the state of Texas, and it's also one of the few remaining rural districts in the state of Texas. And Senate District 24, as a rural district, is under attack by the urban centers from Houston, from San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, not just for our water, but for everything, because we're flyover country to them.
Yes.
And they want our taxes, they want our water, they want to make regulations that may fit in Houston, may not fit in Houston, but they certainly don't fit in Kerrville. And so we need a state senator who understands rural values and understands that Senate District 24 is a rural district and needs to be protected from the overreach of the urban centers. We have one senator in Senate District 24, of course, of 17 counties. They have 6 senators in Harris County alone. Whoa. So you can see the odds that we're up against.
Whoa. Population diversity there for sure. What other areas besides water?
Education. We have to have good public schools, and we have generally good public schools. Again, Senate District 24 is a rural district, and we have good public schools. People love their public schools, but we also need to have parents to have some degree of choice in where they go to school. It's not taken away from the public schools, but it's like giving the parents some choice of where they go. We've got 900,000 students in the state of Texas that are in failed schools, by the definition of failed schools. I don't believe a single one of those failed schools is in Senate District 24. They're all outside. But we still need the parents to be able to have some say in where their kids go to school, and some say in what they learn and how they're treated in even the public schools.
Mm-hmm. Have you looked at, you had mentioned that State Board of Education, Ken Mercer.
Yes.
And I did an interview with him a few months ago in regards to textbooks. And that has truly, I have just been truly enlightened about the process, what goes on, what's involved. And do you think that we need to make some changes in that area to kind of tighten up some areas?
Well, yeah, the textbooks in Texas, I believe we heard, has more students in Texas than there are in some population in some states.
I think it equaled Colorado or something
Yeah.
like that, yeah.
So we need review of textbooks, and it has been done, and we need to continue it. But we've had people monitoring the textbooks and finding that the textbooks are progressive textbooks. And we've been able to get changes in that because Texas is such a large buyer of textbooks. So we've been able to have some degree of success in getting textbooks to be more traditionally based rather than progressive.
Yeah.
What's happening now is that textbooks, the Common Core type folks and the people that want to take the minds of our children are transferring or moving from hard paper textbooks to online work.
Yes.
And you take a textbook and you can give it to a mother and have her review it. She can't review the online work because what they're doing with the online textbooks, for want of a better term, is that they tailor the textbook that is presented online, the screens that are presented online, to each student as they move along. So they can change it for each student based on their responses. And so they've taken it to a whole different level, and it is almost impossible to follow each of those links out and to know what is being presented to our students right now. But I think that is one of the greatest threats to our students right now is this transformation from paper books to online text.
Well, and it also creates, you had mentioned the need for parental involvement.
Right.
And that just creates such a divide when Johnny isn't bringing home the textbook anymore. So his parents can follow along with him and help him. And that has definitely become an area of great concern for a lot of parents.
The parents are being shut out of the process, and they cannot know what's online.
Yeah. One of the things that was exposed with this particular review was after all the books were approved, Truth in Texas textbooks went in, and they found an additional 1,500 errors and reported it all back to the state and to the publishers, and hopefully they were corrected. I mean, I can't imagine discussing World War II and never mentioning the Holocaust.
Yeah.
I mean, omission is as great of an error as anything.
Right. It's happening, and they don't change those textbooks because they say, oh, we weren't aware of the error. They change it because they want to sell textbooks in Texas.
Yeah, absolutely. Any particular other areas or special interests that you would like to share with my audience?
Well, you mentioned the same-sex. We discussed that briefly. I believe that the same-sex marriage ruling is really a red herring. They're not looking for same-sex marriage. What is going to happen is that they're going to use that, and we're already seeing it now, is going to be used as a point of the spear in taking away our religious freedoms.
Yes.
So we're seeing that all over the country, and it's going to be, I believe, in the next 5 to 10 years, certainly in the next couple of sessions, this is going to be a critical point, is protecting our religious freedoms. You know, the last session, with great difficulty, they passed a Pastor Protection Act. We need a People Protection Act. And
Yes.
We need to go ahead and we need to codify our religious freedoms in Texas. Isn't that a shame that we're even talking about something like that?
Oh, it's so true.
I mean, you know, you take even 10 years ago, this would be unheard of. We wouldn't even think that we would have to codify again, because we have First Amendment rights. But we're losing, they want to take away First Amendment rights. I heard a question asked of a conservative fellow running for state rep not too long ago. And they asked him, what do you think about constitutional carry, which is the right to carry a gun without having to have a concealed permit? And he said, you know, we don't need a permit to exercise our First Amendment rights. I don't think we should have to have a permit to exercise our Second Amendment rights. And everybody clapped, and I did too, and I thought, that's a great line. I want to remember
Absolutely.
that. And then I thought, well, you know what's happening? We're getting to a point to where we're not going to be able to have a permit for our First Amendment rights. They're taking those away. We're going to be pretty good in our Second Amendment rights, but our First Amendment rights are going to have to be protected.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else that you would like to share?
No, thank you for interviewing me. I'm a conservative. I was asked in an interview by a pro-life group, they said, when did you first decide or become pro-life? And without being cute, without intending to be cute, I said, I guess when I was born. And because there's never been a time in my life when I wasn't pro-life, that life, you know, has sanctity. God gives life intrinsic value. I've always been pro-life without equivocation. And then on further reflection, to asking myself, when did I become conservative? And it's the same time. I grew up in a conservative family. You're responsible for what you do. You don't ask the government for help. You know, you take responsibility. You don't complain. And so I have been conservative all my life. And I can promise the voters of Senate District 24 that if I go to the Senate, I will not change. I have nothing to gain from this. I've already had my career. And I'm going to stand up for freedom, for individual liberty, and for good against evil. And that's what will be my mission.
Dr. Mays, it's been a pleasure meeting you. I appreciate your time today, and I look forward to following your campaign.
Thank you, Kat. Appreciate it.
Uh-huh.